With the release of weapon bribes in Black Ops 3, it's finally possible for people to have an opportunity to get a DLC weapon. I'm a Master Prestige with over 7 days played, and I have yet to receive any weapons out of supply drops. Thankfully, the weapon bribe changes that. So I received a bribe for being a Season Pass holder. Personally, I was hoping for the HG40 or the Marshall 16, but at this point, I'd take anything. I decided that I would give a whirl at a review type video of whatever weapon I received. So I put my luck to the test and I opened the bribe. The FFAR, otherwise known as the Famas. If you weren't around when Black Ops 1 was released, this weapon may not seem like anything special. For those of you who did play Black Ops 1, you may remember the Famas as one of the most overpowered guns in Call of Duty history. It was an insta-kill, zero recoil laser beam Hipfire machine. Everyone used it and no one was ashamed to admit it. It trumped every other gun in the game by a long shot. Eventually, they hit it hard with the Nerf bat and equalized the playing field. So the question I'm here to answer, what's the Famas like in Black Ops 3? Is it an amazing weapon like the pre-nerf Black Ops 1 Famas? Or is it a shell of its former self? Let's take a look. Before we can get a good feel of how the weapon performs, we need to look at its stats. Now, all of this data was taken directly from our PC Master Race brethren who can look at the game code, and in particular, it's Marvel 4's weapon documents, which you can find a link to in the description. In addition, I hand-tested each and every stat just to ensure things were correct. So the damage profile is as follows: 30 damage up close, 29 damage at medium and long distances, and then dropping to 22 at incredibly long distances. It may come as a surprise to some of you, but that's the exact same damage profile as the HVK-30, the ICR-1, and the M8A7. This correlates to the weapon always needing at least 4 shots to kill. Without attachments, the gun will never drop below 4 shots. At longer ranges, it'll require 5 shots. Needless to say, this 4 to 5 shot kill profile ties the Famas as having the weakest damage in class. Now I can throw numbers at you all day long, but it means next to nothing if you can't put a picture with the numbers. So let's transition into the range. As mentioned, the Famas will always be a 4 to 5 shot kill. Even when you shove your wang down your enemy's throat at barrel stuffing range, it'll still require 4 shots to kill. The good news is the 4-shot kill range is actually incredibly long, up to 51 meters. Visually, here's what you're looking at. The green bar is the 4-shot kill range, and the red bar is the 5-shot kill range. As you can see, this is quite generous. Very rarely will you ever engage someone in that red bar area. Graphs can sometimes be misleading, so let me show you an actual clip. This distance here represents the maximum 4-shot kill range. As you'll soon see, due to the gun's many disadvantages, you should never engage enemies anywhere near the 5-shot kill range, essentially making this gun always 4 shots to kill. And again, the 4-shot kill range is identical to the HVK and the ICR assault rifles. So what about some of the range-altering attachments? I know that's usually the first thing on my mind when I watch a weapon review, and yet hardly anyone covers it. First, the suppressor. As you should be aware, the suppressor in Black Ops 3 severely reduces the range on a weapon. With the suppressor, here's the 4 and 5-shot kill range. Again, the green bar is the 4-shot kill range, and the red bar is the 5-shot kill range. Visually, I'd say it takes about a 60% reduction in its range. While this may appear to be brutal on paper, in an actual game, it's still a fairly decent range. Here's what the distance looks like applied to an actual in-game scenario. It's basically medium to close quarters combat only. Long barrel, on the other hand, doubles the range for assault rifles. So since the 4-shot kill range on the Famas is 51 meters, the new 4-shot kill range would be 102 meters. That's an insane distance that you'll likely never utilize, let alone actually see. Just to give you an idea of how ridiculous this range is, on the map I was testing, which is Infection, I couldn't even find the 5-shot kill range on the right side of the map here. I went as far back as I could shoot and still see my opponent, but it still remained a 4-shot kill. The red bar here is the original 4-shot kill with no attachments, and the green bar is the new 4-shot kill range. You may assume then that this would be an excellent attachment, but in actuality it isn't. Since the original 4-shot kill range is massive as it is, there's no need to extend it further. As I mentioned earlier, you're rarely going to hit that 5-shot kill range to begin with, so why waste an attachment that won't technically aid you in combat? So while long barrel by itself may not be very practical, and the suppressor mucks up our 4-shot kill range, what if you combine them together? I was always under the impression that combining the two attachments didn't do anything, and that you'd still get the suppressor's range. Lo and behold though, that's not the case. Watch here as I'm well beyond where the gun should be a 5-shot kill with the suppressor itself, yet the enemy still dies in 4 shots. This proves that long barrel coupled with the suppressor actually gives back some of that lost range. And here's the exact distance. The green bar is the 4-shot kill range, and the red bar is the 5-shot kill range. This range makes bundling these two attachments an ideal scenario, but making the correct attachment decisions for the Famas will likely give you a headache, as you'll soon see when I go over the class setups. Lastly, how about high caliber? If you weren't aware, high caliber is typically a great choice for assault rifles. Getting a single headshot will reduce the bullets to kill by 1 bullet. And with the amount of head glitching spots in Black Ops 3, this is ideal. The headshot multiplier for the Famas is 1.1x. So with high caliber, this changes to 1.5x. What this does is essentially change our original 4-shot kill to a 3 to 4-shot kill instead. The orange bar represents this 3 to 4-shot kill range, while the red bar remains the 5-shot kill range. So with high caliber, it's now possible to get an incredibly long 3-shot kill. Granted, headshots are more or less luck-based rather than skill-based, but just having the potential for a 51-meter 3-shot kill makes this a very powerful attachment. So that was a lot of data and graphs thrown at you all at once. Let's quickly compare all those ranges in one image. As you can see, green bars are a 4-shot kill, red bars are a 5-shot kill, and the orange bar is a 3 to 4-shot kill potential. Now going from left to right, the first bar indicates the long barrel and the suppressor attachments combined. The second bar indicates a Famas with no attachments at all, so thus the standard 4 to 5-shot kill ranges. The third bar is with the high caliber attachment. The fourth bar is just the suppressor by itself, and the last bar is the long barrel attachment by itself. Now let's discuss rate of fire. It's no surprise that they named this weapon the FFAR, Fastest Firing Assault Rifle. This sucker clocks in at an astounding 800 rounds per minute, which is the fastest firing assault rifle in the game. The second fastest is the HVK at 722 RPMs. To give you an idea of how fast 800 RPMs is, this is faster than all the SMGs except the VMP and the Vesper. That's no mistake, the Famas shoots faster than 5 out of the 7 SMGs. With rapid fire, this increases to 857 RPMs. Due to this fast fire rate, the time to kill is extremely fast. In fact, it's best in class for assault rifles excluding the KN-44's 3-shot kill range. But with incredible fire rate comes less than desirable recoil. Let's take a look at a few of the recoil plots. With no attachments, the recoil pattern is random. Watch here as it goes in a straight line to the right. Quite a bizarre pattern. More often than not, however, it'll go up and towards the right, which is a difficult pattern to control. When you place a grip on it though, it becomes much more concentrated and manageable as you would expect. It also doesn't veer off to the right as much. With the rapid fire attachment, it makes almost a Tetris-like block shape. It'll go a lot more towards the right rather than up. If you couple rapid fire with grip, you won't see much of a difference at all, but it does look similar to the Famas with no attachments. Magazine size for the Famas is typical for assault rifles at 30. If you add extended mags, it jumps up to 42. Unfortunately, reload time is brutally slow at 2.5 seconds. This is the slowest reload speed out of all assault rifles and SMGs. If you're completely out of bullets, the reload time extends to 3.2 seconds. If we watch the reload time in slow motion, we can see that it is possible to reload cancel this gun. The add time for the bullets is actually at 1.817 seconds. So technically, you can reload at that time. But I had a lot of difficulty pulling this off since you have to be very precise. It's much easier to reload cancel on a completely empty clip. With fast mags, the reload time is decreased from 2.5 seconds to 1.383 seconds, which is much more manageable and almost makes fast mags a must for this weapon. When you expend an entire clip, the fast mag's reload time is 1.750 seconds, which is down from 3.2. And speaking of slow things with the Famas, its handling is beyond sluggish. While the weapon speed itself is on par with other assault rifles at 95%, it's the ADS and sprint out time that are worrisome. ADS time with no attachments is 0.300 seconds, which is tied with the Man of War for the slowest ADS in class. What's worse, the sprint out time, or time it takes to ADS while sprinting, is 0.350 seconds, again tied with the Man of War for slowest in class. The quick draw attachment will lower the ADS speed to 0.217 seconds, which makes a marked improvement. Likewise, the fast hands perk coupled with the quick draw attachment will lower the sprint out time to 0.217 seconds as well. I've said it before in some of my prior videos, but if you run quick draw, you should always run fast hands with it. Never run quick draw without fast hands. You'll only be hurting yourself in close quarters combat. On my testing of SMGs, the Gung Ho perk offered a further reduction in sprint out time, but I tested it here on the Famas coupled with quick draw and fast hands, and I couldn't find any difference. It still clocked in at 0.217 seconds. I repeated this several times to make sure it wasn't my error. To be honest, I think this is a bug, and Gung Ho should definitely reduce the time a bit more. But this is why I hand test things, to see if things are working as intended. Anyway, what you want to take away from this is that you'll be getting outdrawn by nearly every gun in the game unless you equip quick draw and fast hands. If you haven't noticed the trend yet, the Famas is heavily dependent on multiple attachments. Now let's discuss the Hipfire spread. Unfortunately, it's the worst in the assault rifle class. If you weren't aware, you can tell how good your Hipfire is going to be based on your reticle size. The smaller it is, the tighter your Hipfire spread. If you change positions, the Hipfire changes as well. Generally, the lower you go, the tighter it becomes. So here's the Hipfire spread of the Famas with no attachments. It's pretty terrible and all over the place. And this is why you likely can't hit the broadside of a barn when hipfiring. If you put the laser attachment on, it'll paint a different story. Right off the bat, you can see the reticle size is much smaller. So much so that you can barely see a difference when crouching or going prone. As such, the spread is much more concentrated, although it still trails off to the right a bit. If you find yourself hip-firing a lot, this makes the laser a viable option as well. Now let's quickly talk about the iron sights. Most people find the irons well suited for engagements. They're fairly clear and relatively easy to use. However, I seriously believe there's something iffy with them. I find it difficult to follow moving enemies with the iron sights during gunfights. It's kind of hard to explain, so let me show you an example. As you can see, I clearly outdraw this enemy, yet my iron sights seem to have a bit of a delay when trying to center on the target. What ends up happening is I shoot to the left of him rather than in his chest. This happened constantly. It's almost as if there's no aim assist. I definitely noticed this immediately, and it cost me quite a few gunfights. But it only seems to happen with the iron sights. There may be worse iron sights out there, but coupled with this issue of following moving enemies, you may be better off with the sight. So that about covers all the statistical data for the Famas. While it's unique and therefore fun to use, just like every other supply drop weapon, the Famas is statistically inferior to almost every other gun in its class. It needs way too many attachments to make it actually viable. Its main strength is the fast fire rate, which makes it have one of the fastest times to kill out of all the assault rifles. However, this main strength is also its biggest weakness. It's almost impossible to full auto anyone at long ranges without burst firing, even with the grip. It's very sluggish with handling, which makes quick draw and fast hands also a must. It chews through ammo due to the fast fire rate and has just an average ammo supply. Not to mention the reload is dreadfully slow. This means fast mags and extended mags are both beneficial. It also kicks like a mule with random recoil patterns, which makes it benefit from a grip. The hipfire spread is worst in class, so if you want to do that with any success, you'll need a laser sight. And if you want to take advantage of a 3-shot kill potential, you'll also need high caliber. As you can see, that's just way too many attachments required to make the gun somewhat competitive. Let me go over a few of the better options for a good class setup. To get the most bang for your buck, you're probably going to want at least 4 attachments. Unfortunately, this limits what else you can do with your class. Grip is almost mandatory due to the outrageous recoil. Quick draw and fast hands is essential if you want to compete in close quarters combat without getting outdrawn by almost every other gun in the game. High caliber is often overlooked, but it's arguably one of the better attachments. With high caliber, upward flinch or lucky hipfire that lands on the head can change the outcome of a gunfight. Given that the recoil pattern generally went upwards and to the right, and when you get hit during a gunfight your gun always jerks sky high, the odds of randomly getting a headshot are increased, which makes high caliber invaluable. For the 4th attachment, I'd recommend fast mags or extended mags, whichever is your preference. The rest of the perk points are up to you. I typically run dead silence and overclock myself. If you can do well without fast mags or extended mags, I'd say just do quick draw, grip, and high caliber. This will allow you to double up on at least one tier of perks, my preference being to put on scavenger, as you'll likely be completely out of ammo after a mere 5 or 6 kills. Here's a lesser known tip you can use with the Famas to help reduce the massive recoil. As you should be aware, the grip attachment will reduce your recoil by about 7.5%. The recon sight, the thermal sight, and the Varix sight all reduce your recoil by about 15%. So by running one of these sights, you'll decrease your recoil by 100% more than the grip will. In addition, the BOA 3, the Varix, the thermal, and the recon sights also have another bonus that the grip doesn't have, and that's a 10% center speed increase. Center speed, by the way, controls how fast the weapon will return to its original position after firing. Before you jump to the conclusion that combining grip and one of these sights will give you 4 times the reduction in recoil, that's not quite how it works. For some reason, they mucked up the coding. To explain it easily, the two items conflict with each other. With the thermal sight, if you equip the grip as well, it'll do nothing. You'll only receive the 15% recoil reduction from the sight. You won't receive the 7.5 reduction from the grip. Thus, grip is useless on the thermal sight. For the Varix and recon sights, if you are on grip with either of these, it actually overrides the sight's recoil reduction. So instead of getting that 15% recoil reduction, you'll only get the 7.5% reduction from grip. So again, you'll never want to run grip with the Varix or recon sight. Just to prove I'm not making this up, here's the recoil plot with the recon sight. As you can see, the recoil is massively reduced thanks to that 15% reduction the recon sight provides. If you recall, the other recoil plots were up and to the right, whereas this one is very concentrated and doesn't go that high up. So by using one of these 3 sights, it'll drastically aid you in keeping your bullets on target in medium to long range encounters with the Famas. Again, you'll probably want to couple this with high caliber, just to make sure you take advantage of that massive 3-shot kill potential. Lastly, let's talk about hardcore. Now I realize not everyone may play hardcore, but it's overlooked way too often in review videos. This gun is a pure power tool in hardcore. In fact, I'd be willing to outright state it's by far the best assault rifle suited for hardcore. Let's take a look at the assault rifle ranges. This chart comes from Reddit user Valtrius, whose link can be found in the description. As you can see, every assault rifle in the game is a 2-shot kill in hardcore. If you look at the third guns down, that's the HVK and the ICR. If you recall, I said the Famas has the exact same damage profile and range as these 2 weapons. So that's where we want to focus. You'll see that the Famas then has a 1-shot kill potential up to 25.4 meters, which is decent, but rather low compared to all other assault rifles. If you put on long barrel, this will double, meaning it'll go up to 50.8 meters, which is the exact same distance I demonstrated earlier in this video on the map Infection for the 4-shot kill range in core. So while the long barrel may be next to useless on the Famas in core game modes, in hardcore it's the best attachment you can use. If you're worried about the massive recoil we talked about earlier, don't be. The recoil on the Famas is controllable until about 10 to 12 shots into the burst. And remember, in hardcore, you more or less will never need a burst that long to win a gunfight. Basically, your enemy will drop dead from the fast fire rate before recoil becomes an issue. As I mentioned earlier, the ammo issue in core makes this gun risky to use, as you'll likely need extended mags or fast mags. Not to mention the 120 bullets you get from spawn are gone incredibly fast. In hardcore though, you have the shorter burst to kill, and thus the ammo will stretch longer. I would routinely kill up to 3 enemies in a single 30-round clip. In core, I could rarely kill 1 enemy with the 30 rounds, let alone 3. So in hardcore, the massive fire rate coupled with long barrel's huge 1-shot kill potential will outgun most assault rifles in any gunfight. In core, where the inaccuracy becomes a huge issue, you'll likely be getting outgunned yourself. And that, as they say, is that. The Famas is a unique weapon with a boatload of drawbacks. While it may look good on paper, in actuality the HVK-30 is much better. If you put rapid fire on the HVK, you'll get the FFAR but with slightly reduced rate of fire, better hipfire, faster reload, faster handling, and less recoil. If you asked me to sum up the Famas in one sentence, I'd say it's a worse version of the rapid fire HVK. Now with that said, it still can be viable given the right class setup. If you play to the weapon's strengths and utilize it only in close quarter combat maps such as Nuketown, Exodus, and Combine, you'll likely find yourself coming out ahead. The short ranges on those maps will allow the fast fire rate to melt people without having to worry about much recoil due to the closer battles. If you add in high caliber, the massive 4-shot kill range potentially becomes a 3-shot kill range, which will definitely have your opponents raging. If you just can't seem to get the hang of the Famas, try going to hardcore. Here it becomes an absolute nightmare of a weapon for your opponents.
You guys are the worst fucking campers I've ever seen in my entire fucking life.
So to anyone that hasn't received the Famas yet, you're not missing out on much. On a 10-point rating scale, I'd give it a 4. The weapon is decent, but by no means is it great. It feels like a higher recoil, reduced damage Black Ops 1 Famas.